Hotel workers at Reddit, what's the craziest, weirdest thing you've discovered in a guest room? We had a swingers group stay at the hotel for a few nights. They had a rave going on up on the second floor. There were naked people everywhere on the floors. Kids were freaked out by it. Other guests were complaining. On top of that, families could hear the couples running from rooms and constantly effing. One guy had found out his wife was pregnant with another guy's child, so he decided to throw the TV out the window. It was complete chaos, and this is a effing luxury hotel. We had an elderly, 70s, couple stay with us once, who were the absolute best. We offered a complimentary dinner around 6 p.m. and the wife had come over to the front desk and brought me a plate of dinner, saying, "You're far too skinny to get any girls, young man." I thanked her and ate it, while her husband walked up, gave her a leash, and she left to go walk the dog outside, while her husband and I talked about what they were doing in my neck of the woods. They go back to their rooms about half an hour later, and I go about my business. Around 8:30, he calls down crying, saying his wife won't wake up. I go up there, calling 911, but I found that she had passed away, sleeping on his shoulder, while they were watching Wheel of Fortune. I wept like a girl that night, and kept him company, while he tried to call his children, who weren't picking up their phones. There was this one guy, who stayed at least one night every week, and he always requested the same room. We thought he was maybe making drug deals or something, so we searched the room after he checked out one day. Turns out he was hiding a blow-up doll under the mattresses. We threw it away, and he only came back once after that. I kinda felt bad for him. I had a guy who said his microwave didn't work, and I went up to the room, and he locked a plate of food in the safe. My friend's dad owns a few hotels, and he likes telling the story of one of them. Basically, there's a policy at all his hotels that if you piss the bed, £50 will be added to your total bill to cover the cost of new sheets and the labor of the maids. So one time, this woman and her husband stay round, and when the maid goes to change their sheets one time, the bed is found to be soaking wet. So £50 is added to their bill, and at the desk she asks about it. She's adamant that it wasn't piss, but won't tell the desk worker what it was. So my friend's dad gets involved and demands to know what the liquid was. She finally gives in and says, "My husband is a fantastic lover, and I had the biggest orgasm of my life." My friend's dad starts laughing, and a few minutes later adds it to the policy. So now at all his hotels, it'll cost you £50 if you piss the bed, or come so hard, you ruin the sheets. As the owner of a bed and breakfast place for the last 8 years, the craziest thing I ever found was an old battered notebook with "Why I Love Salad" written on the front, and then literally 40 to 80 pages on why salad was amazing. There'd be the occasional suggestion that the author believed salad to be alive in some sense. Looked like it had been written on and off over the course of several years. Not a hotel worker, but back in high school, I was on a trip with my crew team of about 80. The guys decide that, since we have an entire floor of the hotel to ourselves, we're gonna line up all the mattresses in the hallway and IDK do something. It was high school. I'm just about to wrestle my mattress through the doorway when I hear the best combination of screams and laughter coming from a few doors down. Everyone simultaneously runs to the room and immediately books it out of there when they discover under my buddy's mattress was about an 18 inches cucumber covered in shit. Maids come, sanitize the room. My buddy gets a new mattress, and according to them, 2 construction workers had been staying in that room for 2 weeks prior. I don't work at a hotel, but I used to work at a full body donation facility. Basically, when you donate your body to science, and some med students or implant researchers need a human knee or head, they would call us. I did the actual dissections and some deliveries. Before I was hired, they made one explicit rule: no deliveries to hotels. I thought this very odd, so I asked. A few years back a researcher asked us to deliver his frozen specimen to a hotel for a conference. We did so, no problem. What we didn't consider was that the researcher had decided the most efficient way to thaw a whole human torso would be to run a warm bath and let it soak. No arms, no legs, no head. Get the image? When he left the room, some unfortunate hotel worker comes to clean the room, sees this bloody human torso in the tub and calls the cops. The guy gets handcuffed and we are left explaining how we legally cut up dead people. The hotel worker, we heard, quite immediately, hence, the rule. TLDR, don't thaw human torsos in hotel bathtubs. My boss has told me the story of a couple on their honeymoon, so we basically set out to try and get things our guests ask for, and these newlyweds wanted a chocolate fountain. Sure, my boss thought, wouldn't be too much of a hassle, right? No, they had to search, like hell, to find one. Well, after the couple's stay, they check out, and don't really say much. When the maid is going to clean the room, she basically goes in, and starts laughing. My boss comes into the room too, and there is chocolate effing everywhere. You could see her as cheeks in the bed and on the table, and even in the roof. You could make out where they started and where they stopped. TLDR. Sex chocolate everywhere, even on the roof. Cats everywhere. And a $100 tip with a nod that said, "Thanks for taking care of these guys. Be back in a week." She didn't come back. Ducklings. The guest said the mother had died and started looking after the ducklings herself. We found them in the lodge bathroom. After that, they were kept in someone's office till the right people came to collect them. A woman who was showering but got sick, food poisoning, and she went to throw up. While throwing up, naked, she then got the other part of food poisoning and spray shit all over the wall, floor, cabinets, and mirror. It was stomach churning but impressive. Additional info: the smell of this was horrid. I had to leave the room and come back twice because I needed to get some fresh air. When everything was wrapping up and security was just getting information for their report. We record anytime we have a medical problem at the hotel. I left. I pulled out my phone and called housekeeping right away and said, "We just had some lady go to the bathroom all over the bathroom. Send a few people out here with extra gloves, a bunch of sanitizer and as much deodorizer spray they can find." I used to install flooring all over the place in various hotels. During one of the routine installations I had to move the bed. As soon as I moved it over, I saw it, a behemoth of a purple dildo, absolutely massive. We ended up jokingly chasing the owner of the hotel around for a bit with it held in some tongs, before we tossed it. I used to serve room service in a hotel that was near a major national hospital, and the two locations had reached some sort of business agreement, where people going into surgery could stay at the hotel the nights before for a discount rate. During my 3 years there, we had about 6 guests die during the night, while waiting for surgery. It was always handled in a really hush-hush manner, but it was always F up to hear about. We also had a couple of porn shoots go down in the guest rooms. Getting a room service request for 4 bottles of coffee and lots of wine at midnight was always a good sign that something sketchy was going on, as was opening the door to see filming lights and tripods. Not me, but a mate of mine worked at an Ibis in Sydney, cheapish hotel brand in Australia, and sure where else, as a temp cleaner. Not really disgusting or weird, but the residents had decided to cover the floor in the bathroom with mayonnaise, and the same with the mirrors. One of my relatives worked in the hotel industry. There was a guest who just left, and when the cleaning ladies entered the room, one of them noticed a pungent smell, went into the washroom, and holy mother of God, apparently someone stuffed a towel filled with poop down the toilet bowl, and the floor was covered with weird yellow stains. Worked for 4 years cleaning in expensive motel rooms. I saw a lot of weird shit. List of some of my favorites: gourmet cheese platter under the bed, a boatload of cocaine on a broken mirror, the largest dildo I have ever seen, hidden under the Bible, all of the towels in the room soaked in piss and wrapped around a big ball of shit. There are always 3 rooms that will stand out to me above all else though. 1. We had this guy stay for a full week without letting housekeeping into his room. Each day we brought him new towels and new trash bags, and he would meet us at the door to take them. When he left, we were terrified of what we would find, but the room was spotless. He had not touched a thing. and had even gone behind himself to clean with bleach. All the towels we brought him were folded up neatly, apparently unused. Even the bed was how we had left it. Super weird. 2. Walked into a family's room to replace towels and do general cleanup while they were still there, and was met by their 12-year-old son jacking off. This is after I knocked on the door, and he said it was okay to enter. I immediately left the room, and returned an hour later when his parents were around. The whole time I was making up the room, the boy sat on the bed crying. 3. Worst room I ever walked into was not dirty in any way. General dirtiness from use, but nothing special. Or at least that's what I thought, until I checked under the bed. There was a giant blood stain, taking up almost all of the floor under the king-sized bed. We immediately left the room and called the police. I don't know if anything ever came of it, but we shut down the room for 2 weeks, so we could completely replace everything. I don't think I found anything really, besides lots and lots of alcohol bottles. Most people clean up well before they leave. However, a friend of a friend is a housekeeper, and once found a banana on the floor with shit on it. Yeah. My roommate works at a hotel, where he found a towel with huge poop stains smeared all over it. He took it down to the manager's office, opened the door, and said, "Look at this shit." I worked at a pretty crappy low-budget 3-star hotel in Canada a year back. On my last month there, a guest came in to request to visit a potential room. Now, I didn't discover this myself, but I had no choice to afterwards. The guest comes back after the visit clearly pissed and leaves without saying anything. I go check the room afterwards, only to discover a pillow head completely covered in human feces. Someone had wiped their ass. Hell, even the room cleaning staff didn't notice it, as it was clearly obviously found behind a chair. This was supposed to be a clean room ready to rent for the night. We specifically check the nooks and crannies of the rooms when we clean for this reason. More often than not, when an accident happens, the guest will try to hide the evidence, be it out of shame or out of a desire to avoid the extra costs. It's annoying as F to find someone's little accident like this. The protocol on this: if there isn't too much damage, get hold of a maid, give her a big tip and apology, and ask her to discreetly help get rid of the mess. She was going to find out anyway. At least this way you have a small chance that the front desk won't be alerted. A goat dressed like Abraham Lincoln. There's no more story here, at least none that I know. Working as a cleaner in a hotel. Went to clean a guest's room. Dreading it, since they'd been there for a stag do. Found the goat. Don't know how it got there, or how it was removed, but it made a good story for a while. I work at a hotel in Ontario, and one of our housekeepers decided she needed to take a shit while cleaning some guy's room. So of course, instead of using the employee washroom down the hall, she sat down and did her thing. The guest had forgot his briefcase and walked into the room to discover a 20-year-old girl taking a dump in his room with the door open. She was fired. A vibrating butt plug suction cup to the side table, a shit or piss covered mattress, sink full of blood, and a to scale stuffed tiger with a hole in its ass. I work in a small B&B cocktail bar. It's in a pretty seasonal part of England, and there are only 3 full-time members of staff. Basically this leads to a lot of time in the off-season, where I'm sat on my ass behind the bar with more chance of winning the lottery than seeing a customer or guest. On just one such quiet night, a middle-aged, bearded gentleman walked into the bar, and little did I know at the time, straight into my nightmares. I'll refer to him as a wizard, as that is what he immediately informed me he was. Not in a jokey way either. Mother trucker truly and honestly believed he had magical powers. Pretty strange, but hey, F it. Dude wants a room. What does it bother me if he fancies himself a Gandalf? Very quickly after checking him in and serving him a glass of wine did I realize that this man was not just delusional but also terrifying. Throughout the course of the evening, he came out with such extraordinarily insane things that he began to deeply worry me. You know that feeling you get sometimes, where innately, and without question, somebody scares the shit out of you? Yeah, this guy gave me that. Eventually I had enough and closed the bar, kicked the guy up to his room. I didn't even effing clean the place. I closed, locked up and left a note saying categorically not to give this guy a room the next night. Done. Except of course my colleague disregarded the note and effing gave him a room. Brilliant. I came in for my shift, check the reservations and flip my shit. There's nothing I can do though. The wizardly F had the key, paid his cash, and was free to torment me yet again. This time I wanted someone with me, if only to witness how strange this dude was. I called my cousin and friend, and offered them cheap drinks all night, just to sit with me, just to bear witness to this creepy ass mofo. Lo and behold, an hour passes, and in he walks, carrying the aforementioned stuffed tiger, assorted bags and the aura of Joseph Fritzl at a NAMBLA meeting. "I've got you a present," he said, smiling a smile which will forever be imprinted on my mind. He then proceeds to pull out the largest, meanest looking butt plug I ever did see, not that I've seen a lot, slams it down to the bar and grins. Pause. Silence. Then I nope the F out. My cousin and friend were just staring, slack-jawed at it, caught between horror and hilarity. No effing way. I kick the guy out of the bar, tell him to leave in the morning, and never come back, and call my boss, and explain everything, and promise that if he's there tomorrow I sure as F will not be. My boss, credit to him, agrees and comes down to the bar to sit with me, until closing time. All finished, or so I think. Next day I get awoken by a call to get my ass down there straight away. There's something I need to see. The housekeepers had gone to clean the room and found the scene of utter desecration which I described above. We had to pay them both triple to clean what could be cleaned, throw away the mattress, sheets and everything else, which was no longer fit for human animal corporeal being contact, and charge it all to this son of a bitch's card. Seriously, this was 2 years ago. If I ever see this man again I am running. He deeply shook me to my core. I don't believe in people being pure evil, but I looked into that man's eyes and saw something I didn't like. TL Dr. Man claims to be a wizard, scares the shit out of me, then proceeds to F the shit out of himself all over my hotel room. I've posted this before, but a friend of mine worked in housekeeping. She called me up one day like, "You have to see this." She's in one of the high-end suites. This was in a casino, so for the super high rollers, the customer that had stayed was a regular, and she was a conservative older woman. Scattered among hundreds of empty Sunkist cans are dozens of dildos, empty tubes of lube, other various sex apparatus. No alcohol bottles, not even the nips from the mini bar had been touched, just orange soda cans everywhere. So if anyone's seen a video along those lines, I'd love to see it. Well, checked empty room, left with doors wide open. On table was brown bag with over $20,000 cash. Tried to wake a guy up to check out, but he was dead. Basketball team used a toilet for communal poops, no flushing, all weekend. The entire toilet was encased in a mountain of poop. They must have had to stand on the ledge of the sink and lean over, or straddle one foot on the bathtub and somehow not fall into it. It took devotion. Horrible and WTF at the same time. Once when I was about 2 or 3, my family was staying in this hotel. The hotel wasn't the classiest hotel, so my brother and dad are gone, and my mom is reading. So I start crawling around on the floor, looking for who knows what, when I stumble upon a piece of newspaper with ashes wrapped in it. I take the ashes, and my mom says to put them in my dad's ashtray. You were allowed to smoke here. So later my dad goes to put his cigarette in the tray and bam. It was gunpowder, not ashes. I go running and crying and hide in the bathroom. We weren't blamed, because the last people in the room left them there. TLDR. I accidentally sent a hotel into a frenzy. This happened to a friend of mine, early 2007, before checking into SOI, School of Infantry, for the Marine Corps. He checked into the shadiest motel in town, the Triangle Motor Inn. He calls up a local escort service and has her meet him at the door. She tied him up at his request and proceeded to steal every single thing he owned. The maids found him the next morning, still tied up and naked in the bed. They had to end up donating him some clothing so he could leave. 3 weeks later, he goes back to the hotel. He calls the same escort service and asks for the same girl. He has her tie him up again and proceeds to rob him a second time. Idiot. This couple stayed in one of our rooms for a week. They would just ask if we would put fresh linens and towels by the door and that they would take any trash to the dumpster. So after their week of being there, and none of our housekeepers had been in that room for a week, one of them opened the door. The first thing was the smell. It made our head housekeeper puke and she had to run away. They had shit all over the walls and rubbed it in. They shit on the floor, television, beds, air conditioning system, and even clogged up the shower with shit. We're thinking they must have had a party of people just shitting in this room. It was so bad that we had to evacuate the hotel, ask everyone to leave and pay for them to go to another hotel, call the cops, call the hazmat cleanup crew, and it took a week and a half to clean this room. Today is my last day there. It was sold to a company that wants to make it into offices. Last night I found an old man bathing in the pool. Just for references, if you want a job with free coffee and Wi-Fi and never a shortage of WTFs, then get a hotel front desk job. I'm going to miss the place. Edito, and just for more info, it's $2,000 a day for a 10-hour hazmat crew, or this particular company, times 11 days. My manager owner was pissed off. Cops never did find those filthy holes. Also, these people paid in cash. The new girl at the time did not get their ID. It was her first week. They used aliases to get away with this. When we do take cash, as a trained employee, I would ask for a driver's license. We handle a lot of cash, and this only happened once in 17 years. Not bad. For credit card, I match the ID with the credit card, and always do a pre-auth. It's just smart business. For the people sending me verbally abusive private messages, lol. I'm not a housekeeper, but I work the front desk. This actually happened last night. I work the graveyard shift. I check in this annoying bunch, who brought a bunch of girls into a room with 2 beds. It's 4:30 AM and I have to take a piss. I go into the lobby bathroom and find a guy from the annoying bunch, and some girl in the bathroom with the lights off, for some reason without the door locked. I said, "Oh sorry," and went away. All I could think of was, I really have to take a piss. What the F? I was a front desk agent while I'm in college. One of the housekeepers discovered a giant jug of lube, a 2-headed black dildo, and an assortment of bloody needles left scattered about the room. True story. After working at a hotel, I never use hotel bedding. In fact, if I'm at the beach, I typically sleep outside on the balcony. Always check for bed bugs as soon as entering the room. If you pick up bed bugs and bring them home, it will cost you thousands to eradicate from your home. I work at a low-budget hotel in Western PA. Like 2 weeks ago, we had a guest who was getting kicked out for not paying their bill. They had stayed with us for a few months, but started slacking on paying what was due. Well, checkout time comes. They haven't checked out with the office. We go to knock on the door. No reply. We go inside and find them. 2 ladies in their 50s, dead from an overdose. They had apparently been dead for around 12 hours. Coroner comes, and we find out that he needs helping moving the bodies. So me and a few of my co-workers have to lift these 2 bigger dead ladies and transport them out of the room, down the stairwell, and into the coroner's vehicle. Sure, they were in body bags at that point, but still it was so effing surreal, because nobody saw this coming. We all loved them. They just couldn't pay their bill anymore and killed themselves. They left behind a note of self-destruction and everything. On another note, I once went into a checkout that a family of 4 was staying in. I go to get the dirty towels out of the bathroom and discover that one of those little bastards took a giant shit in the tub. Too bad the youngest person in that room was at least 12-13. Not even a effing tip. In a penthouse in Myrtle Beach, I found 3 items strewn across the floor. Nearly every inch of carpet had either dip cups, alcoholic containers, and dirty diapers. I mean everywhere. Felt really bad for the kid. Oh, and one time, I think I walked in on a Russian pimp and 6 of his girls. That's a longer story though, and I'm on my phone. If there's interest, I'll add an edit. Okay, there's interest. Just wanted to make sure people would see it before I efforted. Anyway, I have this weird thing with Russian women. They are generally unnaturally predisposed to desiring my company. I already had a long list of stories about this odd fact before my encounter with the South Carolina end wing of the CCC prostitution ring. when one day, while working in a Myrtle Beach luxury resort, when a scantily clad woman with a thick Russian accent asked if I could vacuum a lamp in her room. She was a 6 feet, thin, gorgeous, blonde woman, and we chatted on the way back to her room. As we entered the room, she told me her name was Olga. I asked if she was from Russia. She said yes, and naturally I responded my NR's of at the flang. You don't have the kind of magnetic appeal to Russian women that I do, without picking up a little bit of it. Now, the room's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath with a kitchenette and a living room. I was standing in the living room, and as soon as I uttered those words, like some poorly written Wayans Brothers flick, she immediately yells out, "Girls." He speaks Russian, and instantly one of the bedroom doors open and out pour 5 of the most gorgeous women I have seen in my entire life, all of whom were around 20, and most of whom were topless. They started shouting a slurry of Russian I don't understand, as I stood there with a smile on my face, completely unsure what to do. So eventually I shout a couple of "Spatsiba s" and hightail it into the other bedroom, the one which the girls had not just exited, and mostly shut the door behind me. As I'm standing there figuring out how to mediate the situation, or even what the hell kind of a situation I just found myself in, I hear a deep gravelly Russian man, who I was previously unaware of, ask me, "Do you like my girls?" I turn around, and there on a bed, laying like Hasselhoff, is a 50-year-old man in nothing but an open silk robe and a speedo with a shit-eating grin on his face. So I turn around, and as it becomes clear that I am either A, in the middle of the most beautiful family alive's vacation, or B, infiltrating a high-end escort service, I look at him and I say, "Your girls are quite beautiful. I have forgotten my vacuum cleaner. I'll be right back." I open the door. The 5 girls are standing there expectantly, and I say it's hard for me to speak Russian when surrounded by such beauty. I apologize, and I'll be right back after I get a vacuum. One of the older women translated for me, and I left a tad shell-shocked. It was quite the left turn in my day, and asked one of the large Jamaican women I was working with the situation. So she cleaned that room for me later in the day. A little anticlimactic, but still, the memory of a large procession of nearly naked tents surrounding me and shouting a language I did not speak while waiting for me to reply with these huge smiles on their faces is something I won't soon forget. I was working at a luxury hotel, and we had a fairly big name band staying with us. There were no noise complaints, and they seemed to be perfect tenants. When they left, and we went to clean the room, every single piece of furniture was nailed to the ceiling, in roughly the same configuration that it was in on the floor. I found it to be quite amusing. Management didn't